Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, brothers and sisters, welcome back. Now we're going to be going into another key which can trigger and awaken the fitrah and the truth within the fitrah, which is the key of experience. Now, brothers and sisters, for me, this is one of the most profound keys, and personally, I really love utilizing this key in the da'wah, and the reason is because there's nothing like the personal experience someone has. Even though we live in the 21st century and people act rational and they come across very intellectual and they want to have rational discourse, but at the end of the day, what really matters and what really shapes our views and beliefs is our experiences, what we experience firsthand. Now, brothers and sisters, another point or key to keep in mind about this key is that it's the total opposite of the key that we've previously discussed, which is the key of rationality. Why? Because you can't really rationalize experiences, right? You can't really rationalize feelings and things that you experience in your life. It doesn't work like that. And I'll discuss that a bit further as we go along. Now, when it comes to experiences and the key of experience, we need to appreciate that experiences come in all different shapes and sizes. You can have positive experiences, there could be negative experiences, there could just be spiritual experiences, internal, metaphysical experiences that you have that you can't explain in any way, shape or form, but change you and change the course of your life, right? And experience is a very, very powerful thing in triggering the fitrah. For example, if we look at the Quran, in chapter 10 of the Quran, we find around verse 22 onwards, we find a very powerful parable, a story that Allah shares and gives us, which is of people that are at sea. And I'm paraphrasing the story for you. And they're enjoying, you can imagine they're on the ship, and they're standing on the deck and they're seeing the cloudless sky and a beautiful sunset and they're just traveling through the sea, and suddenly the weather changes. Suddenly there's a storm and just high waves start crashing into the boat. And before you know it, these waves start coming over them. And as these people, Allah reminds us here in these verses, as these people, they fear for their life, they call out to Allah in sincere faith. They call out to God. But when God saves them and returns them to safety, they just go back to their old ways, basically. Right? It's a very powerful parable which gives us an insight into how powerful experiences could be in awakening the truth within. As we've heard of sayings, there's idioms in the English language such as that there is no atheist on a sinking ship, right? When the turbulence hits, when you're on a plane, oh my God, help me. You just call out to God. Think about it. In such situations, do you have time to sit there and rationalize what's going on, right? Imagine the plane's about to crash. Are you going to sit there and start to think, hold on a second, let me see what philosophical, rational argument I can come up with for God's existence so that I can believe in God and then call out to Him? You're not going to do that in such a situation. It's just this instinctual reaction to the experience that you're going through. And it awakens a reality within you which you're so sure of at that point. And you call out in sincere truth and faith to that being, that creator. But as God says, sometimes the human beings are such that even such experiences, after they've had them, we turn away. We go back to our old ways, right? I want to share a very powerful story that I heard from a friend, just quickly with you guys, which really gave us an insight, gives you an insight into this reality. My friend, when he wasn't practicing a few years ago, he was sitting with his non-Muslim friends. He was still Muslim, still believed in God. And he was sitting in the house, they're sitting in the living room. It's a nice afternoon. And the wife and the husband are sitting on the sofa, they're watching TV. And the little girl, their child is playing out on the street. And as they're watching TV, suddenly they hear this screeching sound. A car comes to a halt and it smashes into something. And you hear all this commotion going on outside. The mother suddenly jumps out of her chair. She screams out, oh my God, and she runs out of the door. And a few moments later, she returns with the child in her hands, saying, thank God, thank God, thank God, and she sits down. Now my friend, he reflected over the situation. He couldn't get this out of his head, the reaction of this woman out of his head, right? He kept thinking about it, and he was thinking because his friends were atheists. They didn't believe in God. But suddenly, because of an experience that this woman had, she not only called out to God, but she thanked God. And he asked her later, well, why did you do this? And she said, well, I don't know, right? And this, again, many examples we see like this, where certain situations and experiences in one's life just awaken that truth within. And this is something very beautiful from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that God has given the human, just us, so many different things and tools that can trigger that truth within. We're not limited to just rational arguments, or we're not just limited to experiences that we're discussing now, or we're not just limited to reflection as we'll discuss. There are a whole host of things that can awaken the truth within. Now, for us as individuals giving da'wah, there's a very important lesson to keep in mind and refresh for ourselves here, which is that assess the person you're speaking to. Do they need a rational argument? Maybe not. Maybe they just need to be reminded of a experience that they've gone through in their life, right? Or maybe they're going through an experience right now. How can you address them in that moment to help them in understand what's going on and bring them to God? So assess the person you're speaking to. And also, brothers and sisters, experiences aren't just negative, like we mentioned already. It's not just difficult times, hardships and trials that come in our life, which can awaken you to the truth of God. It could be positive experiences too. For example, how many times have we heard of stories from our revert brothers and sisters where it was the adhan? They went to maybe a Muslim country, they're walking around, doing their shopping, going about their business. Suddenly they hear the call to prayer. And it just triggers something within them. They have this spiritual experience, this awakening within them. They can't explain, put into words, rationalize. But they just feel drawn to these sounds and the call. Maybe they go into a mosque and they see Muslims praying, and that affects them on a very deep level, right? So it could be positive as well as negative experiences, and they could be spiritual in nature too. I also want to give you a quick example from the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him himself, where a companion named Abdullah ibn Salam came to the Prophet, and he wasn't Muslim at this time. All he simply did was look at the face of the Prophet, peace be upon him. He was a Jewish man at the time. He just looked at the face of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and he knew he was a prophet. That experience of just seeing the face of the Prophet, peace be upon him, changed him. And he became Muslim. And this should get us to appreciate the different types of experiences that people can have, right? And keep this in mind. So sometimes, brothers and sisters, it's not going to be rational arguments that are going to work. Sometimes it may just be reminding someone of experiences that they've had in their life, or acknowledging someone's experiences that they're going through right now, and to now, reconcile those experiences for them. That can lead to the awakening of the fitrah. Hopefully this has been beneficial, and I will soon see you guys in the next episodes.